I got punched in my own diner by a guy in a polyester vest with HOA enforcement stitched on the chest, like that was supposed to mean something. And the worst part wasn't the punch. It was the silence after. You ever hear a room go quiet in a way that feels personal? Not peaceful quiet, not Sunday morning coffee steam rising kind of quiet. I mean, the kind that sits in the corners and watches you bleed. That's what I heard. A fork clinked against a plate. Somebody coughed. A chair leg scraped. And nobody said my name. I stood there with my cheek throbbing, tasting copper, staring at the napkin holder like it had personally betrayed me. 37 years of pouring coffee for these people, 37 years of knowing who takes 2 sugars and who pretends they don't. And when some HOA thug clocks me over a zoning complaint, not one of them stands up. Mrs. Lewis, who I once carried out of her burning kitchen while she screamed about her cat, stared into her tea like it held the secrets of the universe. John from the hardware store kept chewing bacon like I wasn't leaking on the tile. A teenager filmed it. Filmed it. Cowards. The kid who hit me had already walked out, probably to log his paperwork and file his conscience under obsolete. The older one stood by the door like a department store mannequin with authority issues. Then Cheryl's voice cut through. "Henry, you're dripping." Not loud, not panicked, just sharp enough to slice. She shoved a rag into my hand. "Stop trying to be a statue. I was hoping to inspire somebody," I muttered. She didn't smile. "Nobody here's worth inspiring." And that's when she slid the envelope across the counter, thick, official, heavy with nonsense. Emergency Enforcement Directive. Structural hazard. Zoning breach. Fire code lapse. Funny thing about this place, it survived grease fires, a blackout that lasted 3 days, and Tommy's chili experiment in '92. That should have been declared biological warfare, but now it's unsafe. Page 2 wasn't repairs. It was replacement, a glossy mock-up of a 12-unit housing block glass stucco minimalist nonsense. My diner gone, flattened, replaced by something that looked like it sold scented candles to people who call their dogs fur babies. "They already sold it," I whispered. Cheryl nodded. "It's not about violations." No, it was about profit. The HOA president, Karen Phelps, had been using private security and zoning loopholes to pressure old deeds out of stubborn owners. Me, Cheryl, half the block, technically legal. Morally, you'd need a microscope to find her soul. "They hit me," I said, still tasting blood. "Yes, Henry. In my own diner." "Yes." Her eyes softened just a little. "They want to break you before they bury you." That's when something old inside me shifted. I reached for the rotary phone behind the counter, the one I hadn't touched since Mary Lou passed, and dialed a number I'd memorized before disco died. It rang once. Hawk came the voice. "Tommy," I said. "It's time." Across town, Karen probably thought she was playing chess. She forgot something. I learned strategy in a jungle where hesitation meant somebody didn't come home. Vietnam doesn't leave you. It settles in your bones like old weather. There was a night in the valley, too quiet, mud up to our knees. Miller breathing too loud. I warned him twice. Third time, the bullet went through his helmet like it had an appointment. I didn't scream. I pivoted, pulled Brody down, covered him. It wasn't heroic, it was strategic. Miller was already gone. Brody still had orders in him. I've carried that choice for 50 years. So when Tommy's rusted Silverado came screeching over the sidewalk the next morning, antennas bent like angry insect legs, tailgate reading "property protected by regret," I knew something had shifted back into place. He stepped out, older, grayer grin still dangerous. "Nice driveway," he said. "It's a sidewalk." "Not anymore." We didn't hug. Men like us don't. Inside, Cheryl looked him over. This, the cavalry, Tommy tipped an invisible hat. "Ma'am." Within hours, the diner turned into something between a breakfast joint and a low-budget fortress. Fishing line with tin cans along the alley, irritant smoke rigged to the vent, flash traps under the grease trap, cowbells tied to steel plates. "You two are really doing this?" Cheryl asked. Tommy grinned. "We're not here to win. We're here to make them regret trying. Then Gary, the HOA paper pusher, showed up with his clipboard held like a confession. Behind the violation updates were redevelopment plans, Horizon Living Group, parcel numbers. Cheryl's house was marked pending acquisition. That was the twist. It wasn't just about me. They were clearing the whole block. That night, more envelopes slid under the door. Fire code, electrical grid, noise ordinance, a storm. I called one more number, Brody. He arrived at 2 a.m. No headlights, no engine noise. Just a figure stepping out of the dark like the past had decided to walk again. He didn't smile, didn't shake hands, just scanned the diner like terrain. They're going to wish they hadn't, he said. We dug, not holes data. Brody found the thread. Karen wasn't just flipping property, she was tied to a defense subcontractor, Artemis Defense Holdings, using dormant federal land clauses to seize properties flagged as former military sites. Guess what my diner used to be in 1952, a National Guard supply relay. They weren't just taking land. They were reclaiming federal ground through HOA pressure and calling it progress. And they'd already drafted language to label me unstable due to combat history, erase the veteran, then erase the building. That was the plan. So we went public, veteran groups, lawyers, a judge I once served under, media. Karen didn't expect that. She showed up the night of demolition like she was unveiling a new mall bulldozer, rumbling black SUVs lined up, clipboard guy in front. You Henry Hawkins? He asked. I stepped forward. Behind him, the bulldozer growled closer. Brody clicked the remote in his pocket. Cowbells screamed. Flashbang lit the alley like daylight. Smoke poured. Cheryl moved like vengeance in an apron bat, swinging with personal history behind it. Tommy tackled a guy through a table. Syrup exploded. I jabbed my cane into a shin and felt 50 years peel back. The bulldozer kept coming. Brody fired a flare into the windshield glass, spiderwebbed, then a sharp blast took out the tire. Karen stepped out of her SUV through the smoke, perfectly pressed polo mic, clipped like she was hosting a TED Talk. Mr. Hawkins, she said, you're delaying progress. I'm making a stand. She smiled thin. This land never belonged to you. Before I could answer, sirens. But not theirs. Veterans in dress jackets walked down the block shoulder to shoulder, cameras behind them. A reporter with a mic, a lawyer holding printed emails. The judge stepped forward, windbreaker flapping. Miss Phelps, the reporter said, care to comment on the email where you wrote, we'll smear them before they can speak. Karen's smile cracked. The bulldozer shut off. Private security retreated. Brody tossed an encrypted drive at her feet. Everything you built, he said, fits on that. She left without another word. The diner smelled like smoke and spilled coffee, but it was still standing. So were we. Morning came loud, chairs scraping, coffee hissing, pain everywhere. Tommy read the paper. Local heroes, he grinned. Think that gets us free waffles only if the parade starts at the VFW and ends in the ER, I said. Brody handed me 2 names before he left. They'll reposition, he warned. Then he disappeared the way he arrived, like smoke. Cheryl poured coffee, looked at me different. Dinner, I said finally. No battles, just dinner. She smiled. Only if I drive. Deal. We patched what we could, boarded the window, left some scars visible. Scars tell better stories than paint. That night a kid handed me an envelope, typed note inside. Karen wasn't the first. She won't be the last. They want land with blood on it. You proved it still fights back. I folded it, put it in my pocket. Cheryl raised an eyebrow. Something I should worry about. I looked around the diner booth. To Mary Lou's photo. The crack in the tile where I fell and got back up. No, I said. Because here's the thing I learned, and it took me 50 years to understand it. You can't erase people who remember who they are. You can intimidate them. You can smear them. You can punch them in the face and hope the room stays silent. But if even a handful stand up ghosts and all power shifts, not because we're stronger, because we refuse to disappear quietly. So here's my question for you. At what point does progress become theft? And when it does, how far are you willing to go to protect what's yours? Was I right to rig that diner like a battlefield, or should I have walked away and let the bulldozer win? Tell me what you think. And if you've ever had someone try to push you off ground, you earned I want to hear that story too. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive in a courtroom. Sometimes it smells like coffee gunpowder and syrup on the floor, and it stands its ground.